Hi, welcome to J-Ball Electronics Training. My name is Clint. Today we're covering TEXA Truck. This is the training that we provide to customers when they first purchase TEXA Truck, but this is no way meant to be a replacement for actually talking to us on the phone or in person to get your training done. This is just if you're looking to train other people in the shop, need a little bit of a refresher, or if you just can't arrange a time with us. Try to cover as many of the things that we go over, cover the basics, and we're always here. Call us toll free 1-855-326-8863 if you ever have a question with TEXA, a problem, or need any assistance. So here we've made it into the home screen of TEXA, but in order to get here, we had to have our green USB key inserted that came with your TXT and click on the software. If you haven't inserted your USB key, you're going to get a message saying HW key not found. Once you've inserted that, open up the TEXA software. Here we are. So on this first screen, before we move on, I'd like to show you that below this news panel at the bottom of the screen, let's just scroll down and we'll see we have an update check button. Alternatively, we can also just click on the news panel, make it go down, and there we have our update check button. Recommend checking for updates every week or two. This is going to add new features to your tool, fix bugs, and just add more new trucks that you can get connected up with. So here we have TEXA Truck licensed on this particular tool. Let's click on Truck. Takes us into the Diagnosis screen. If it brings you into Menu, which it does sometimes, just click on Diagnosis to get back in here. So here we have the different category of vehicles, heavy duty and bus. Medium duty, that's things like Chev, Ford, Dodge, and other medium duty trucks. That means anything from a 3/4 ton diesel pickup and up. We have light commercial vehicles. Those are things like Sprinter vans, Dodge ProMaster vans, Ford Transit vans. We've got Powertrain. This is where maybe you have a limited production chassis with an engine and you know that it's Caterpillar. You can just come and go directly to the engine. It's also available for transmission, brakes, and ABS. And on the trailer side, we have ABS and reefer unit information. In the left-hand menu, we've got manual identification. This is showing us that we have the ability to do a Vinscan. We can also go by VINs that we've stored, engine codes we've stored, or license plates. That's in the customer management area that we'll cover in a bit. eTruck Workshop, that just takes us out to a screen on TEXA's website that asks us to log in. This is for eTruck. It's a module you install into a truck, connects to a driver's app, sends data back to TEXA, allows you to remote in, do things like remote regens, troubleshooting, etc. Special code. This gives you the ability to do things offline. There are certain features in TEXA that want to be connected to the internet, and this is just showing you that you can update it. See, currently it says 4:28 p.m. on October the 8th. We're going to click the update button, and that's going to update this to 4:44 p.m. Just showing us that you've got 48 hours from today's date to do these 5 activations. We'll get into that more once we're into the program. iSupport, this is the ability to connect directly to TEXA. Technical support, feature requests, bug reporting. We include it with our TEXA packages because we feel it's an important thing to have. Troubleshooting, this is TEXA's online database powered by Google. So a scenario where you might use this particular button is if somebody calls you up and says, hey, I've got code 3846 on my dash. Just put it in here and search. And there we go. We've got causes, troubleshooting. Again, this is on the internet, so you need Wi-Fi or a hotspot for that to work. And the last button on the left currently is diagnostic coverage, just a PDF telling us what the latest updates in TEXA have been. All right, let's hop into heavy duty and bus. So right now we're connected to an ECM from a Peterbilt. It's a Cummins CM2250. So we can go one of two ways. We can either scroll down to Peterbilt, or we can click P in the right menu. Now once we're here, we have this Vinscan option. So if we click on that, TEXA attempts to figure out what kind of a vehicle it is. But before we do that, we need to have our tool configured. So this is right from scratch. This is when you haven't connected your TXT box to your computer yet. So let's click the configure button. It's going to take us into this particular screen, show us our address. We click next. And now TEXA's for searching for Bluetooth powered tools within range of the computer. So this is a TXT. This is how you do the Bluetooth pairing. Don't do it through Windows. Another thing, it's important to know how to do this because every once in a while TEXA will lose its Bluetooth connection, and it typically looks like this. It finds the Navigator TXT, but it's just not powered on. So we just have to click this to enable the pairing, and we see that it's configuring the tool down at the bottom of the screen. We click the next arrow at the right corner and exit. And we're back out here to try our Vinscan again. So Vinscan is going to attempt to identify the vehicle. This doesn't always work. Sometimes it works really well. It comes up with exactly what you've got, takes you in. Other times strikes out or asks for more information. There we go. It actually found it this time. So we've got heavy duty and bus, Peterbilt Cummins, which is a match. And we see that we're on the home screen for this particular vehicle. Now I'm just going to back us out to heavy duty and bus again, jump down to Peterbilt, and show us the other way of coming in here is click Peterbilt, and it's asking what engine. This happens to be Cummins. And now we're back into the same screen that we found with the Vinscan. On this screen, System Scan is the most important button that you're going to use the first time you connect to a vehicle and then possibly thereafter. So System Scan communicates with the truck to look for all the modules and controllers it can find and also gives you a fault code report. So let's click on that. It's going to tell us what type of cable to use, either a 9-pin Deutsch connected to an OBD-B cable on the left there or the North American truck cable on the right. Down below, we've got a indication where the diagnostic port's typically located, and on the right it's showing us a video of where we typically find the diagnostic port. Some trucks it's not that easy. At the bottom of the screen we got the little configure settings icon. Let's click on that. This asks us what our default cable is going to be. So on TEXA sold within the last few years, you're going to use the top one. Older kits may have this 3151 T16. But this cable hasn't been around for a while. So if you're having problems getting your TEXA to connect, it's possible that you have chosen this cable, but you're actually using the one above because they do communicate differently. So we're just going to confirm that we're using the cable at the top. This could be either this OBD2 to 9-pin, or it can be the North American truck, which has terminal, 6-pin, and 9-pin Deutsch. We've clicked to confirm, and we just have to start the system scan again. This time we're going to click next. TEXA is starting its communication with the truck. It's going to pop up. It's going to tell us that we need the key on, which is standard, and you'll get used to that message. Always wants the key on just to make sure our ECMs are powered. TEXA is probing the truck, trying to find all the modules and controllers it can find. This scan typically takes a minute or two, and if you see the status bar stop at any point for 30 seconds or more, I recommend stopping it by clicking the red X in the top corner and start the scan over again. Typically, if it does stop, it'll stop the first time you attempt it and complete quickly the second time through. And the scan's almost done. In a second here, it's going to come up with a system report, show us what type of things have been found on the truck. So here we go. This message is just saying that all codes can't necessarily be cleared from this particular screen. Sometimes we have to descend down into the individual systems on the truck. Here we've got the different statuses that have been reported back on modules and controllers. If we click on the X, it actually shows us that the control unit did not respond. Yellow indicates systems that responded but have codes detected, and there's a third one for green, systems that are visible and don't have any codes on them. If we click on DTC detected, we get a list of the codes on this particular unit. Now, one of the things I like to warn people about is here it's showing a whole bunch of active codes or red codes. These colors aren't always accurate. Sometimes a red code will actually be a stored code, and sometimes the yellow code is actually an active code. So at first glance in System Scan, don't trust these colors. Nice feature in TEXA more recently is if we click on this, we see that they've brought wire diagram information out to this point, so we don't actually have to get all the way into a diagnosis to get wire diagram info. We can just identify the engine and the emission generation, and there we go. If you click on that, it's telling us accelerator dual potentiometer. If we click on other things in the wire diagram, we can find more information like this. Car generic check sheet pops up, tells us information about sensors, how to test them, and possibly when other components may need to be replaced. So always click around on the wiring diagram. There's other information to be had just by clicking on it. Click back to get to the list of codes. We can click on any of the codes to get into troubleshooting, or we can click on the top line item at this point. Before we do that though, I like to capture all the codes that we've got here. So if we click print, see that TEXA is actually asking it for some information about the truck. We previously filled this in. Click the green check mark, say print, brings us back to information about us, information about the truck, information about the software, and then the codes that have been captured. At this point, I typically go either print, and in Windows 10, you have the ability to print PDF right from Windows 10. Gives you the option of saving it to your computer, emailing it to the customer, or saving it on file. TEXA has also added print to PDF in later versions. It asks us where to save it, but kind of hides it here. Data, AutoDia, TEXA. Recommend that if you're going to do it this way, find a better location and save the PDF file. Give it a good name. And save. TEXA is going to confirm, show us the file. We double click on it and open it up in an Acrobat reader. And agree to the terms. There we go. So there's our PDF file. Saved, stored, emailed to people. Now we've captured all the codes. I feel this is really important to do when you first see a vehicle, because you can go to the customer and say, look, there were 32 codes when I started. I went through, fixed all these things, and that's why my bill is this. At this point, you can clear all the codes on this screen. Good scenario for doing that maybe is if the vehicles have dead batteries and just has a whole pile of voltage codes and you want to see which ones come back. You can error clear from this. Again, it may not allow you to clear all systems. So let's double click on one of these codes to go in and see a diagnosis for this system. TEXA is going to make sure that we have the ignition on so that the ECMs are powered. And this is just a standard warning that some things can't be set just because of the way the ECM is built. We are always going to come to the faults tab first, regardless of whether you have faults or not. As you can see, this ECM being off the truck, there's going to be all sorts of sensors that aren't being registered. So we got a lot of faults. Again, we can print from here. We have the option of going to technical data. We can save things, or we can clear codes at this point in time. Clicking on a code brings up a bunch of other options. If we go down to the second code, we see that again we have the wire diagram button. That takes us into our CM2250 ISX15. There we go. We've got our oil pressure sensor, car, generic check sheet. Sometimes they're a little bit hard to catch up with. There we go. Again, troubleshooting for that particular component. Go back. The next button over, freeze frame. These are parameters that are captured the second that the code's generated, so this can be good information to see what was going on at the same time. The orange button, when this lights up, this is our web database, so this is going to search for the exact words you see there that says fault code 141, Cummins engine. There we go, so we found a bunch of matches. Now, sometimes the text that it uses to search for is extremely generic, so this is Google powered. You can adjust what you want it to search for. For example, you can come in and refine this. So instead of it saying all that, you can just say fault code 141 and then click the search icon, and there we go, comes back. So again, Google powered, modify it just like you would any other search. The final button here on the right, this is the built-in help. This is built right into the tool. You don't need to have internet for this to work. It works much more quickly than going to the internet does. So I recommend that one anytime it lights up before the orange one does. Other information that you can see is if you double click on a code, you're going to get the PIDs, FMIs, SPNs, MIDs, etc., and sometimes a count. This information isn't always displayed on the first page of the codes. Sometimes you'll get a generic code and you have to double click on here to come in to get more information. Clicking on live data, this is all the information that you can pull from the engine, vehicle, system live. One thing that I'm not a big fan of is you can see here that it's not alphabetical and it's not logically grouped together. So if you're looking for a specific thing, it's taking a fair amount of brain power to read through every one of these. But one thing you can do is if you click on the filter, you notice that it becomes alphabetical and you have the ability to search. So let's say that we're looking for something that's, well, diesel exhaust fluids, maybe not a good example. How about we go temp? So there we go. ambient air temperature, coolant temperature, DOC inlet temperature, DPF's temperature. So let's build our own little list of parameters that we want to see. And now it comes back. Again, it's out of alphabetical order, but at least it's reduced down to the things that we are looking for. People ask, what does the number mean? This is just the number out of 147 this particular parameter is. So this one is 18, this one's 21, and this one's 43. So the number has no real relevance to anything. The black number over here on the right, this is our current reading. 32 is the low, and 220.64 is the high, so the green and the red. And let's get rid of this filter. So just click the delete filter icon down at the bottom. We're back to our complete list, but we have some pre-built parameters that TEXA has already set up. So all pressures, all voltages, white engine smoke, all switches, etc. Now this opens up some new features here. One of them being this on-screen recording, 1 to 30 minutes. It just records the parameters you see on screen. Not terribly useful. The other one though, this dynamic recording, the little road icon, what you do is you click on this. It tells you to secure your black TXT box somewhere in the vehicle, and it puts the black box into record mode, and you can send the vehicle back out to work to replicate those codes that you're not able to do in the shop. And you can send it out for 2, 4, 6, 8 hours. When you come back in, all you have to do is open your laptop up, connect to TEXA again, just start a diagnosis. It'll download all that information, take it into the customer management area, and let you look through it. Now, one of the other things that you can do here is, say you're working on a vehicle and there's always a few parameters that you use over and over again. You can click Add, and again, let's go through and look for some temps. So let's say that there's some temperatures and maybe some DPF functions that we're dealing with all the time. So we just build our own little favorite parameter tab and give it a name. And click Save. Now that tab is always there with all those parameters. So when you're doing recordings, it's important that you capture all the parameters that you want to see while the vehicle's out. So this may be a scenario where you build your own dynamic test for a specific make of engine. When you're done with that tab, you can leave it and it'll be here next time you come in, or you can click on the garbage can and away it goes. We're back to normal. So let's click the left arrow at the bottom here to get back to the main screen. Next thing down at the bottom here, this is a feature some people like, and sometimes it actually is helpful. If you click on dashboards, we see a visual representation of different systems on the vehicle. So injectors, we got fuel tank. This is screen 1 of 3. 2, we got turbo, EGR, and then we got DOC and DPF. So this is just a visual representation of the data that you see in text format normally. A lot of people like it when we're doing regeneration type stuff. Under ECU Information tab, you're going to find different info about the ECU, software, build dates, sometimes customer information, etc. What type of an ECM it is. And sometimes we'll have mileages and hours that's been logged by this particular unit. Activations, this is TEXA's terminology for diagnostic tests. So you see standard tests that you're used to seeing here. You can, if you have a question about any of them, you click on them, click the question mark, pop up, and it'll tell you more about what that particular test does or what you should be expecting. Other things too is it's going to tell you conditions that need to be met, especially when we're doing things where we need to have the engine running. Often one of the conditions is that we need to have the coolant temperature up to a certain level. So to get into any of these, just click the start button, takes you in, takes you through the test. It's just step by step, guides you through. Under the settings tab, this is where we're going to find things like aftertreatment, DPF, etc. Now, one of the things you see here is this little web icon, this lock icon. This is just telling you that there's some aspect of either performance or liability associated with this. So after treatment maintenance, there's obviously some performance associated with it and liability, I suppose, if you're going to be changing anything to do with after treatment. So this icon means that as a TEXA customer, you agree not to sue TEXA because you want to be able to do these features. This also ties into this little number 5 lock up at the top of the screen, because these are the 5 things that you're going to be able to do when you're offline. So if you look through this list and you think of a vehicle that you're going to be working on, if you need to adjust the ECM date and time, when you activate this test, it's going to chew up one of your 5 locks if you were not connected to the internet. So this is where this 5 lock up at the top comes in, is ensuring that you've got those loaded before you head out to the bush. And if you use those 5 up, you just need to either get hotspot, Wi-Fi, sat phone, whatever it is, to get coverage again, and then you can download 5 more tests. We're working to get that number increased to just being a time-based thing, and hopefully we can have an update for you sometime in the future. So again, with any of these particular settings or calibrations that we're doing, if you click the question mark, it'll pop up and it'll tell you what it's going to do and any conditions that need to be met. Along the top of the screen, we've got some other hidden features here. So we've got the settings icon. This just tells us a little bit about our TEXA. Go back. We've got the ability to do a screenshot, connect to iSupport. These 2 different options are both for iSupport. And again, the web lock telling us when our special code adjustments expire and how many we have left. So let's close out of this particular diagnosis. Let's go and look at some other things that we need to know with our TEXA. So anytime you're doing a system scan, when you get back to this screen, it's going to show you the exact same codes and statuses. System scan is a snapshot of one point in time. It does not automatically update. If we want to get a new snapshot of where this truck's at and all those codes that we cleared, we need to do system scan again. So when you get back to this screen, don't be surprised if you see all the codes still sitting there. So red X to close, confirm to exit. We're back to this particular screen. So we see here that we did a system scan and we saw that there was diesel injection that we could access. We can also get to diesel injection this way, but this means that we're going to need to know more about the truck and choose the appropriate emission level. If we were to try to connect to this truck using EPA 98, we would get a message saying communication interrupted. And that's a little bit misleading because it's not that communication is interrupted, it's just that TEXA isn't communicating properly with this particular ECM. Wrong ECM level, wrong emission level, or maybe just the wrong vehicle straight up. So we're limited in what we can do because we're only working with the engine ECM on the bench here today. But you can see that for Peterbilt trucks with Cummins engines, you've got lots of different things that you can access. And again, different trucks, different years will have different features. So let's just go straight at the diesel engine without a system scan this time. So let's click the, well, to the right of the start button, we've got this little diagnostic locator icon. So this brings us back into this screen that shows us the option again to change the cable up if need be. But this time, let's just click on start. This is a little bit quicker than doing a system scan because we're not probing the entire truck. We're only after the ECM, engine ECM at this point in time. So again, TEXA is going to remind us that we need to have the ignition turned on, confirm. And it's not recognizing the ECM, or it's recognizing it as different. So let's just close this, red X up at the top, and go and try it as 9804. This particular ECM actually typically acts up on the bench, and one time it'll tell you that it's 9804, and if we try it again here as 71013, which I believe it is, it'll actually connect. So this one's been connected to an awful lot in all of our testing and training. It's time for a format C. This time it connected up. So you notice this is a little bit quicker than a system scan. So once you become familiar with the truck, understand the emission levels, you can just come straight into it. So we're just going to close out of here. Get back to the main TEXA screen. So other things we can access here include wiring diagrams. Ask us what engine or emission level we're on. Technical data sheets. This will have information about other systems and what you need to do resets. It has things like turbo calibration. The customer management. This is where information from dynamic tests are going to be stored. And you can also do things, for example, like entering customers, recording oil changes, changing belts, tires, etc. You can use this as little or as much as you'd like, but this is the section where information from dynamic tests will appear. It will ask you either for a VIN, a license plate, or a unit number to save this, and that's all you need to do. So we're just going to close back out of customer management, and we'll cover this more in another area. So that's a quick look at TEXA Truck. This isn't meant to be replacement training. In person's always better, or over the phone. Give us a call. We'll get connected up, run through any problem you ever have. If you're on a vehicle, or even if you don't have internet service where you are, we can run through it by phone with you. When we can get connected over TeamViewer is always better, but we're here and we know that the world out there isn't as always as easy as we'd like. So if you have any questions, please give us a call, J-Ball Electronics, 1-855-326-8863. Check us out on our website, jballelectronics.com, Facebook, YouTube, J-Ball Electronics. And again, we're here anytime you need us. Give us a ring. Look forward to helping you out.